Your potion worked, but the pain refuses to sleep. Human. The laboratory was silent, except for the soft hum of alien machinery. The walls glimmered in shades of green and silver, alive with circuits that seemed almost organic. In the center of the room, a human sat restrained, hands locked in metallic cuffs, eyes fixed forward but alert. His name was Alex, and though his body had been tested and broken countless times before, his mind remained sharp, alert, and defiant. Dr. Kalen, an alien scientist with skin like polished amber and eyes that shimmered like liquid gold, circled the human. He had spent decades studying the species known as humans. Most of his colleagues considered them fragile, weak, even primitive. But Kalen had noticed something different in Alex, something that even he could not fully understand. A spark of resilience that refused to be extinguished. Kalen held a vial of glowing blue liquid. The potion he had carefully engineered over months. It was designed to suppress the human's ability to feel pain, to calm his mind, and to make him more compliant. This should work, Kalen muttered to himself, more curious than confident. The corners of his mandibles twitched in anticipation. He had tested variations on hundreds of humans before. Most became docile almost immediately. But Alex had a reputation among the laboratory staff. He had endured procedures that would have killed most other humans. He had survived, and in many cases outsmarted the very machines meant to study him. Alex did not flinch as Kalen approached. He had learned long ago that fear would not save him. Pain could be felt, endured, and even used. The human's body trembled slightly, but it was not weakness. It was anticipation. He could feel the alien observing him, calculating every reaction, and in turn, he calculated his own. Every twitch of a finger, every blink of an eye, could be a weapon in a world where humans were always underestimated. Kalen carefully uncorked the vial, the glowing liquid reflecting in his eyes. "This should quiet you," he said, more to himself than to Alex. The words were calm, almost scientific, but there was a trace of wonder in them. He injected the potion into Alex's arm, and the human's muscles tensed for an instant. The room was silent. The monitors showed stable readings, heart rate, brain activity, and pain receptors all seemed normal. Nothing unusual? But Kalen noticed it. Immediately Alex's pupils were sharper, his awareness more focused. He tilted his head. Something in the human had shifted, but not in the way he expected. Alex did not speak, but inside his mind, a storm was brewing. The potion did what it was meant to do. Sharp edges of physical pain dulled but the underlying pressure. The deep aching of exhaustion and memory remained. It flowed like a river under ice, cold and relentless, and Alex learned to ride it instead of fighting it. Pain became a rhythm, a guide. It told him where to focus, where to hold back, and where to strike. Humans were strange that way. Even when weakened, they could adapt. In leaned closer to examine the human's response. "Interesting," he whispered. He scribbled notes in his floating tablet, diagrams and formulas glowing as fast as his thoughts. The potion had worked in the literal sense. The immediate reactions had calmed up. Alex's body and mind were doing something Kalen had not anticipated. They were cooperating in ways that suggested a level of resilience and intelligence beyond simple survival. The human shifted slightly, testing his restraints. They held, but it was not the point. Alex was learning, mapping every movement of the machines and every sensor in the room. He had spent countless hours observing the patterns of alien science, memorizing the way they moved and calculated. To the aliens, he appeared calm, even passive, but inside, his mind raced faster than any machine in the room. Kellen's assistants watched quietly from the observation deck. Most of them whispered among themselves, sharing theories and doubts. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but Alex had taken unpredictability to a new level. Some of the assistants had already started suggesting a new protocol, increase the potency, introduce a secondary potion, or move him to isolation. But Kalen held his hand up. He wanted to see where this anomaly would lead. He had a scientist's curiosity, but also a grudging respect. He had seen Alex survive situations no human should have endured. That could not be explained by chance alone, The human tilted his head slightly, noticing a faint vibration in the floor from the alien machinery. Small, almost imperceptible, but enough for him to register. In a flash, he understood the rhythm of the experiment. He recognized the slight delay between Kellen's commands and the response of the machines. And in that moment, he began to plan. Not a full escape but steps toward control. If the aliens thought humans were fragile and compliant, they had underestimated him. They always underestimated him. Hours passed in the laboratory. Kellen performed minor experiments, recording every twitch and pulse. The potion kept Alex's physical pain under control, but the mental resistance was fascinating. Alex's brain seemed to reorganize itself in response to the chemical, compensating for what the potion could not suppress. He began thinking faster, observing patterns in Kellen's notes, noticing repetitions in the assistant's movements, and storing every detail. Every sound, every reflection, every vibration became part of his map of the environment. At one point, Kellen asked aloud, "Do you feel the effect?" His tone was clinical, almost polite. Alex remained silent, though a faint smirk formed in his mind. Yes, he felt it. The potion dulled some pain, yes, but it did not take away awareness. And awareness, Alex knew, was the greatest weapon a human could wield against an alien mind. Pain could be used, twisted into focus, and channeled. He had done it before, and he would do it again. Kellen leaned back, puzzled. The pain. It should be gone entirely, yet he endures. Why? He muttered the words under his breath, as if speaking them aloud might bring him an answer. The answer was simple, but it went against everything his species believed about humans. They could endure far more than predicted. Their minds and bodies adapted in ways that even advanced alien science could not fully anticipate. And when pain refused to sleep, humans did not falter, they learned to ride it. The human shifted slightly in his restraints, testing the strength of the bonds but also his own limits. He could feel the potion in his veins, suppressing the sharpest edges, but he could also feel the slow, persistent ache of his body. It was a familiar companion, and he used it like a tool. Humans were strange that way. Weakness could become strength. Pain could become a weapon. He did not fight it. He understood it. He controlled it in ways Kellen could not see, because the alien had no frame of reference for human resilience. Kellen studied Alex, intrigued and frustrated. He had spent years cataloging species, predicting responses, calculating probabilities. Most humans conform to the expected patterns of weakness, but Alex defied them all. Kellen adjusted his instruments, measuring neurotransmitters, heart rates, and brain waves. The potion was working chemically, yes, but it had triggered something Kellen had never predicted. The human mind, it seemed, had its own response, self-directed and resistant. The observation deck assistants whispered again, worried now. They had never seen a human respond this way to alien treatments. Some argued to increase the potion's dosage, to suppress the human entirely. But Kellen held firm. He wanted to observe, to understand. He wanted to see if the human's resistance was mental, physical, or both. It was not just a subject anymore. Alex had become a puzzle, a challenge to his understanding of life itself. Hours turned into a day, and the human's body remained under the potion's influence. Pain was dulled, but awareness, focus, and defiance were sharpened. He moved in subtle ways, testing systems, noticing blind spots, learning. Even in captivity, Alex felt a sense of control he had not felt in a long time. Every detail counted, every observation became a potential tool. He could survive this. He could endure. He could turn this situation into an advantage at one point. Kellen leaned closer and whispered, almost in awe, "Your potion worked. But the pain refuses to sleep, human." The words struck Alex not as a threat, but as recognition. The alien acknowledged something he already knew. Pain could not break him. It could not silence his mind. And as long as that truth remained, he could endure anything. As the night passed, the laboratory dimmed under soft artificial lights. Machines continued to hum, monitors glowed with data, and the alien scientists observed quietly. Alex remained alert, aware of every movement, every reflection, every sound. The potion had changed his body's response to pain, but it had not changed his mind. And that was the human way, even when the world tried to control him. Even when science tried to dictate his limits, he found a way to adapt, to endure, and to survive. By the end of the first cycle of experiments, Kalen sat back in contemplation. He had injected countless humans before. Most had complied, most had broken. Alex had done neither. He had endured, adapted, and remarkably learned from the experiment itself. Kellen's respect, reluctant but growing, was a testament to human resilience. Alex's mind worked quietly, calculating, observing, preparing. The potion had dulled the pain, but it had not silenced his spirit, and that was enough for him to begin thinking about what would come next. The day after the experiment, the laboratory felt different. Machines hummed with their usual precision, and alien assistants moved about, following strict routines. But there was an edge in the air attention that Kalen could not ignore. Alex sat quietly in his restraints, his eyes sharp and calculating. The potion had dulled some of the physical pain, but it had sharpened his mind, not weakened it. And Kalen could see the subtle signs, slight shifts in posture, tiny adjustments in breathing, a focus that seemed almost unnatural. Kalen approached with a new set of instruments. Today, he wanted to explore the limits of the human mind. He had prepared a series of tasks designed to measure comprehension, memory, and reaction to stress. The aliens believed that by controlling the environment and monitoring physiological responses, they could map human capacity precisely. Most humans failed quickly. They panicked, broke down, or simply gave up. Alex, however, did none of these. The first task was simple. He was shown a sequence of lights that blinked in complex patterns. The expectation was that he would forget or make mistakes under the influence of the potion. But Alex's eyes followed each light with precision. His body, guided by instinct, moved in slight adjustments, and his mind stored each pattern with uncanny accuracy. Kellen's instruments recorded neural spikes and unusual brainwave activity. Something was happening inside Alex's mind that the scientists could not predict. The second task tested pain response. Tiny shocks, calibrated carefully, were applied to Alex's limbs. Normally, the potion should have suppressed his reactions entirely. Most humans flinched, cried, or became distracted. Alex felt the pain, yes, but he did not panic. Instead, he focused on it. He converted the pain into rhythm, mapping its rise and fall, turning discomfort into a tool rather than a weakness. His body shivered only slightly, and his eyes reflected concentration, not fear. Kalen observed, fascination growing with every passing minute. Incredible, he whispered. The potion worked in the technical sense, but it had revealed something Kalen had not anticipated. Humans could not only endure pain, they could use it. It was not weakness. It was adaptation. His notes filled rapidly, diagrams of neurons and chemical reactions. But none of his formulas fully explained Alex's responses. The human was an anomaly, a puzzle that refused to be solved by conventional science. From the observation deck, the assistant scientists whispered among themselves. "He's learning too fast," one said, eyes wide. "That shouldn't be possible." Another nodded, voice low. "The potion should have made him passive. He should be broken. Yet he adapts." Kalen ignored them. He wanted to see how far Alex could go. The laboratory was more than a place for testing. Now it had become a stage for human ingenuity under pressure. Alex's mind, meanwhile, worked tirelessly. Every flash of light, every pulse of electricity, every minor vibration became part of a larger pattern he was forming. He noted how the alien machines responded to stimuli, how assistants moved, how Kellen's attention shifted with each experiment. He could anticipate small errors before they occurred. He began to develop subtle ways of communicating with other humans in nearby Celestini gestures, barely noticeable, but enough to convey patterns. Warnings and encouragement. Humans were rarely together in large numbers in alien labs, but Alex had learned that even small connections could become powerful. The third task was more complex. Kalen had designed a puzzle, a mechanical contraption that required dexterity and logic to solve. Most humans failed after a few minutes. Alex watched it carefully, noting each movement and delay. The pain in his body persisted, dull but constant, yet he did not let it distract him. He turned it into a guide, using it to pace his focus. Step by step, he adjusted levers, matched symbols, and finally completed the puzzle. The alien assistants gasped quietly. Kalen leaned over the instrument panel, unable to hide his astonishment. "You are?" "Extraordinary," Kalen muttered. He scribbled notes frantically. The potion worked, yes, but Alex had used it as a bridge to sharpen his mind instead of dulling it. It was as if the chemical had unlocked an unexpected resilience. Kellen's curiosity now bordered on respect. Few humans had ever shown such adaptive capabilities. Alex was no longer just a test subject, he was a study in the limitless potential of human endurance. Hours turned into cycles of observation. Alex endured every task, every test, every calibrated shock, and sensory manipulation. Yet instead of collapsing, he improved. He began noticing patterns that even Kalen did not expect. A sequence of lights, a rhythm in the shock pulses, a slight delay in the assistant's movements all became pieces of a map that Alex used to anticipate and prepare for the next step. It was not rebellion yet. It was learning, and in learning, there was power, by mid-cycle. Kalen decided to test the human's perception beyond the obvious. He introduced a sensory overload simulation, flashes of light, sounds beyond normal frequencies, vibrating floors, chemical sensol meant to confuse, disorient, and overwhelm. Other humans would panic immediately. Alex paused, closed his eyes briefly, and then opened them with a steady gaze. He did not flinch, did not cry out, did not falter. Instead, he cataloged the sensations, filtered the irrelevant, and focused on the patterns he could use. C-L-E-N. Observing the monitors, leaned back, almost fearful. The data was beyond comprehension. Alex's mind was reorganizing itself under stress, adapting at a rate that no machine could match. The potion had worked chemically, yes, but it could not control the human will. It could not suppress ingenuity, determination, or defiance. Alex had turned weakness into strength. The other humans in the facility, observing in adjacent cells, began to notice the shift. Alex's calm endurance was contagious. He had no words for them, no loud declarations, but small gestures, subtle nods, and glances gave them hope. Pain, which had been their enemy, became a shared understanding. They watched as one human defied the impossible, and they began to believe they could survive too. This was the essence of humanity, Kalen would later realize. Though he did not yet comprehend it fully, the ability to endure, adapt, and inspire even when all odds were against them. Kalen tried a final approach. He lowered himself to Alex's level, speaking softly, almost coaxingly. "The potion should make this easier," he said. "Why do you resist? Why do you endure so strongly?" Alex met his gaze calm, unwavering. He said nothing. Words were unnecessary. His presence, his focus, and his resilience spoke volumes. Kalen scribbled more notes, realizing that intelligence alone could not explain this behavior. There was something deeper in instinct, a drive, refusal to submit that defied logic. As the cycle ended, Alex's restraints were loosened slightly, enough to allow minimal movement. His body ached, dull but persistent, yet he did not collapse. Instead, he stretched carefully, observing every machine, every light, every alien in the room. He had learned their routines, their weaknesses, and the patterns of the laboratory. The potion had done what it was designed to do, but Alex had turned it into a tool, not a limitation. He was stronger mentally because of it, sharper and more aware. Kalen watched, fascinated and frustrated. He had designed the perfect chemical solution to control the human mind, yet Alex had circumvented it entirely through sheer adaptability. He scribbled furiously in his tablet, diagrams, chemical formulas, behavioral charts, but none of it could fully capture what he had witnessed. Alex had taken control without moving beyond the bounds of his cage. he had turned weakness into a weapon. And Kalen could only observe. The day ended with Alex sitting quietly, eyes closed briefly, body calm but mind racing. Pain was still there, low and persistent, refusing to sleep. But so was his determination. He had survived every test, learned every pattern, and communicated silently with the other humans. He had endured what should have broken him and had become stronger because of it. Kellen's voice, soft but trembling slightly, broke the silence. "You are unlike any human I have ever studied," he said. "Even under chemical influence, you adapt, endure, and learn. The pain should have ended you. Yet it has not. It fuels you." Alex did not respond, but inside, a faint smile crossed his thoughts. The alien had recognized the truth. Humans could endure far beyond expectations. Pain was not weakness. Pain was a tool, and Alex was a master at using it. As the night fell on the laboratory, the other humans in nearby cells whispered quietly, sharing small signals of hope and courage. Alex's resilience had given them a spark they had not felt in months. The potion had dulled the edges of pain, but it could not dull the fire inside them. Humanity, as Kalen would soon fully understand, could not be contained by chemicals, machines, or intimidation. And in that quiet, glowing laboratory on a distant world, Alex's mind worked tirelessly, preparing for the next step. The potion had worked, yes, but the pain refused to sleep, and neither would human ingenuity, determination, or spirit. The laboratory was quieter than usual, though the soft hum of machines continued steadily in the background. Alex sat in his restraints, eyes open, analyzing every detail of the room. He had learned the rhythm of the aliens' experiments, understood the timing of their commands, and memorized the quirks in the machines. Every pattern was a map, and every observation brought him closer to control. Today, Kalan had decided to escalate the experiment. He had grown fascinated and frustrated by Alex's resilience. The potion had dulled the edges of physical pain, but Alex's mind had grown sharper, more focused. Kalen wanted to see just how far this human could go. He prepared the next stage, pain amplification. It was meant to push the limits, to break even the strongest human. Alex could feel the tension in the air before the procedure began. The assistants moved with nervous precision, their movements slightly hesitant, aware of what was coming. The machine whirred to life, sending calibrated waves of energy toward Alex's body. The pain was immediate, sharp, and relentless, but not overwhelming. It flowed through him, constant and alive, a rhythm that his mind quickly learned to ride. Most humans would have cried out, panicked, or shut down completely. Alex did none of these. Instead, he focused on the sensation, feeling its patterns and timing. Each pulse was a beat in a rhythm he could use. He breathed carefully, matching the rise and fall of his body to the energy surges. Turning the experience into a strange form of meditation, pain, Kalen thought, was supposed to destroy focus. Yet Alex used it to sharpen it, Kalen observed from his control panel, his golden eyes narrowing in concentration. He had seen humans endure before, but never like this. Alex was adapting in real time, his nervous system responding to stress in ways Kalen could not predict. It was as if the human's mind were learning from the pain itself, converting discomfort into strength. Notes and diagrams filled Kellen's tablet, but they only hinted at the complexity of what he was witnessing. Alex's internal focus went beyond his own survival. He began mapping the room in his mind, the placement of machines, the angles of cameras, the positions of the assistants. Every detail was a piece of the larger puzzle he would need if escape ever became possible. Pain no longer limited him. It revealed weaknesses in the system, a hidden rhythm to the alien routine. Each surge of energy, each flash of light, was information he could store and use. The other humans in nearby cells watched quietly, their own fears momentarily forgotten as they saw Alex endure. He became a symbol without intending to. Their whispers and subtle signals, unnoticed by the aliens, began to form a network of silent encouragement. Alex caught a glance from one of them, a small nod, and it was enough to convey, "We can endure. We can survive." Pain had not destroyed them. It had awakened their own inner strength. Kalen adjusted the intensity, curious to see if there was a breaking point. The human's muscles tensed, eyes narrowing, but he did not falter. Instead, he adapted further. Each spike of energy triggered a new strategy in his mind. He shifted his posture slightly, aligning his body in ways that minimized the most intense sensations. He learned the precise timing of the waves and anticipated them. Almost dancing in rhythm with the pain, the assistants whispered among themselves, worried now. "He shouldn't be able to endure this long," one murmured. Another shook their head. "It's as if he's using the pain." To think, Kalan ignored the chatter, though a small part of him admitted to awe. Alex was teaching them something they could not have learned from theory alone. Humans, it seemed, had an unexpected capacity to adapt, to endure, and to thrive, even when conditions were designed to destroy them. Alex's mind moved beyond observation. He began to experiment subtly, testing how much he could influence the alien machines without being noticed. Small twitches, micro-movements, and precise shifts of his body allowed him to slightly misalign sensors, delay readings, and disrupt minor calculations. To the aliens, it was negligible, but to him, it was proof of his growing control. Pain had become a tool, a guide, and even a weapon in a battle that had not yet begun. Kellen's frustration grew with every passing moment. He had engineered the perfect chemical solution, designed the ultimate pain suppression system, yet Alex remained unbroken, unbowed, and increasingly capable. Every test revealed new layers of human ingenuity. Kalen scribbled in his tablet, muttering formulas and hypotheses, but deep inside he felt a growing unease. He had underestimated this species, and that was a mistake. He would not forget. The human's awareness extended beyond the immediate room. He began to notice the smallest anomalies. A delay in the assistant's footsteps, a flicker in the corner of a monitor, the faint vibration of machinery that was not part of the experiment. Each detail was recorded, stored, and analyzed in real time. Humans had a way of seeing connections that were invisible to the alien mind. Alex could anticipate outcomes before they occurred, plan several steps ahead, and adjust instantly. Pain, once a limitation, had become an amplifier for his cognition. As the amplification cycle continued, Alex began communicating with the other humans more deliberately. Tiny gestures, barely noticeable, conveyed warnings, encouragement, and strategies. They responded in kind, and a silent network began to form, invisible to the aliens. Even in captivity, humanity found a way to cooperate, to survive, and to adapt. Kalen watched, fascinated and horrified. The human mind, he realized, was far more resilient than his equations had ever predicted. After several cycles, Kalen decided to test Alex in a different way. He introduced a complex problem-solving task, combining physical movement with logic under extreme stress. Other humans would fail immediately under the amplified pain, but Alex approached it with calm determination. He moved precisely, using pain as a guide rather than a hindrance. His mind calculated, remembered patterns, and predicted the effects of each action. Step by step, he solved the puzzle, completing it flawlessly. Kalen leaned back, golden eyes wide. "This should be impossible," he whispered. He scribbled furiously in his tablet. The potion worked chemically, yes, but the human's mind had adapted, using pain as a tool instead of letting it destroy focus. He was witnessing the essence of human ingenuity, endurance, intelligence, and creativity under impossible conditions. The assistants on the observation deck whispered frantically, unsure how to proceed. "We need to increase the dosage," one said. Another shook their head. "If we push him too far, he might do something we can't predict." Kalen ignored them again, though his own unease grew. Alex had crossed the line from subject to strategist, quietly challenging the very assumptions of alien superiority. Alex noticed the heightened tension in the laboratory. The aliens were worried, and that knowledge was power. He cataloged every shift in expression, every hesitation, every small mistake. They did not see it, but their reactions were predictable, once studied carefully. He began to plan not just survival, but subtle disruption. Every small action could create a ripple effect. Every observation could become a tool in a larger strategy. By the end of the day, the laboratory had shifted in an unseen way. Alex remained calm, enduring the amplified pain with measured focus. The other humans had drawn strength from his example, and even Kalen could not hide his growing respect. The human had turned adversity into advantage, suffering into strategy, and pain into power. As the machines powered down for the night, Alex sat quietly, eyes closed briefly, then opened them with renewed awareness. The pain remained dull, but persistent, refusing to sleep. But it was no longer simply a challenge, it was information. Every wave, every spike, every dull ache had taught him something. Humans had always survived against impossible odds. And Alex now embodied that truth fully. Kalen, watching from his console, muttered under his breath, "Even under extreme conditions, he adapts. And he learns faster than we anticipate." The words were both admiration and warning. Humans, he realized, could endure far more than his species had ever imagined. They could turn weakness into strength, suffering into insight, and captivity into preparation. Alex's mind worked quietly, mapping the laboratory, memorizing every routine, every pattern, every weakness. Pain refused to sleep, but neither did his determination. The potion had worked, yes, but it had failed to control the essence of the human spirit. And in that failure, Alex found opportunity. By nightfall, the human had learned more than Kalen could measure. He had discovered the rhythm of the experiments, the timing of the assistants, the patterns of the machines. He had begun to teach the other humans silently, giving them hope, guidance, and confidence. Even in captivity, humanity found a way to resist, to endure, and to adapt. Selene watched, a mixture of fascination and fear in his golden eyes. The potion had worked chemically, but Alex had transformed it into something else entirely. He was no longer a subject. He was a strategist, a leader, a spark of human ingenuity that refused to be extinguished. And Kalen, for the first time, realized that humans could not be broken by chemical control, machines, or pain. The laboratory dimmed as night cycles began, machines slowing, assistants retreating to their quarters. Alex remained alert, aware of every shadow, every sound, every vibration. Pain refused to sleep, but neither would his mind. Every moment of suffering, every spike of energy. The laboratory was tense with anticipation. Even the machines seemed quieter, as if they sensed the shift in the room. Alex sat in his restraints, eyes scanning every corner, every device, and every alien moving about. Today was different. He was no longer simply enduring experiments. He was planning something greater. The potion had dulled the worst of the pain, but it had not dulled his mind. And now, after days of observation, Alex had a plan. He began subtly testing the limits of his control. Small movements, barely perceptible, adjusted the sensors and monitoring equipment in ways the aliens could not detect. He shifted his weight to create tiny delays in the pressure pads, touched a lever just enough to misalign its calibration, and noted every reaction from Kalen and the assistants. Each adjustment was small, but together they created ripples. Alex understood that even minor disruptions could become tools when used strategically from the other cells. The humans watched quietly, their eyes flicking to Alex for guidance. They had begun to trust him without words. Small gestures, a nod, a blink, a subtle movement were enough to communicate instructions, encouragement, or warnings. They began to mimic his calm focus, training themselves to observe, endure, and adapt. Pain had once been a crushing enemy, but under Alex's example, it had become a shared rhythm, guide to survival. Kalen paced near the control panel, golden eyes scanning data feeds. He had noticed subtle anomalies in the readings. Equipment malfunctions that should have been impossible, delays in response times, and slight errors in the assistant's routines. He could not explain it scientifically. The human was learning faster than any machine could measure. And worse, the humans seemed to anticipate the experiments themselves. Frustration and curiosity warred within him. He wanted to test limits further, but there was a growing awareness that Alex was no longer just a subject. The first step of the plan came during a routine check. Alex subtly manipulated the restraint system. A slight twist here, a careful shift there, and the locks loosened just enough to allow minimal movement. To the aliens, it appeared as though the machines had minor calibration errors. To Alex, it was freedom's mall, yes, but freedom nonetheless. Every inch he gained was a step toward something larger, and he was careful not to draw attention. Next, he needed information. Using the patterns he had observed, Alex tracked the schedule of the assistants in Kalen. He noted when doors opened, when cameras rotated, and when chemical injections were administered. Each routine was predictable, and he memorized every sequence. Humans were exceptional at pattern recognition, and Alex was no exception. By the end of the observation period, he had a detailed mental map of the laboratory and the surrounding complex. The other humans followed his subtle cues. During a test, Alex shifted slightly in his restraints, signaling a change in the timing of a shock cycle. One of the humans in the adjacent cell mirrored the movement, adjusting their own posture and avoiding the worst of the energy waves. To the aliens, it appeared as though each human was simply enduring independently. In reality, Alex was training them, teaching them to anticipate, adapt, and act in synchrony without words. Kalen noticed the pattern of resistance growing stronger. He tried altering routines, introducing new variables, and increasing the intensity of experiments. Alex endured, adapted, and even leveraged these changes to gain more control over the environment. Kalen scribbled frantic notes, realizing that every attempt to suppress or control the human only strengthened their awareness. The potion had worked chemically, yes, but the human spirit remained untouchable. By the second cycle, Alex began testing the limits of the machinery itself. Using subtle pressure and movement, he triggered minor malfunctions, doors jammed temporarily. Sensors reset, and circuits overloaded briefly. To Kalen, these were anomalies, minor but concerning. To Alex, they were opportunities. He could see the chain reactions forming, the small disruptions compounding into chaos over time. Each malfunction was deliberate, calculated, and safe enough not to alert immediate suspicion. The humans began to act with more confidence. Following Alex's example, they tested the systems around them. Noting weaknesses in the restraints, patterns in the surveillance cameras, and timing in the assistants' routines, communication remained silent but precise. One glance could convey hours of strategy. Pain remained dull and persistent, but it no longer dictated their limits. It became part of their strategy, a reminder of endurance and adaptation. Kellen's frustration grew. The potion had worked perfectly in every other test subject, but here, it had revealed something he had not anticipated. Humans were resilient beyond calculation. They could endure, adapt, and even manipulate circumstances that should have been entirely controlled. Every spike of energy, every induced pain, every chemical reaction had failed to break Alex. Instead, it had made him stronger and more aware. As night cycles approached, Alex knew it was time to test the next phase of his plan, coordinated action. He had memorized every schedule, every weak point, every pattern in the laboratory. The potion kept him calm, the pain guided his focus, and his mind was sharper than ever. He signaled subtly to the other humans, guiding them to prepare for a small disruption enough to test their coordination and learn the limits of the alien systems. When the moment came, a synchronized shift occurred. Alex moved just enough to jam a critical sensor. Another human shifted in response, creating a minor short circuit that delayed the automated restraints. A third human adjusted a lever, and a temporary gap in security systems emerged. Kalen and his assistants noticed anomalies, but could not determine their cause immediately. For the humans, it was a successive demonstration of coordination, ingenuity, and subtle resistance. The ripple effect of these actions grew. Alex noted which disruptions were most effective and which had unintended consequences. He adjusted his strategy in real time, teaching the others to act carefully, decisively, and without drawing attention. They were learning not just endurance, but action under pressure. Pain remained a constant companion, but it had become a tool. Guiding their movements and sharpening their decisions, Kalen watched, torn between fascination and fear. He had believed the humans could be controlled chemically, physically, and mentally. Yet here they were, enduring the worst pain he could induce, learning from it, and subtly altering the environment. The intelligence, ingenuity, and resilience of the human species had become undeniable. Every attempt to suppress them only revealed new layers of strategy and adaptation. By the next day, Alex had extended his network. Every human in nearby cells participated in small ways, learning patterns, anticipating schedules, and adjusting to subtle signals. They moved almost invisibly, minor adjustments creating temporary windows of opportunity. Alex was careful. He knew the aliens were watching closely. Every action had to be precise, deliberate, and sustainable. The laboratory's daily routine became a stage for human ingenuity. Pain pulses, chemical injections, and machine cycles no longer controlled the humans. They adapted, endured, and began influencing the systems themselves. Every small disruption, every strategic movement was a testament to their collective intelligence and determination. Even in captivity, they were becoming a force the aliens could not fully predict or suppress. Kalen, sitting at his control panel, finally admitted it to himself. The potion had worked chemically, yes, but it had failed to control the human mind. Pain could not suppress ingenuity, endurance could not destroy creativity, and chemical control could not limit determination. Alex had turned every limitation into opportunity, every obstacle into a step toward mastery as night fell. The humans rested in shifts, quietly observing, communicating with subtle gestures, and preparing for the next day. Pain persisted, dull, but ever present, but it no longer defined their limits. Alex's guidance had transformed them from passive subjects into active strategists. They were ready to endure, adapt, and act in ways that aliens could not fully anticipate. Kalen finally spoke aloud, almost to himself, a mixture of awe and frustration in his voice. Even under every control, every test, every pain we can induce, he adapts. He learns. He leads. This should not be possible. Alex, listening silently, did not respond, but a quiet satisfaction filled his mind. The alien had recognized the truth. Humans were not fragile. Pain did not break them. It refined them. Limitations were temporary, and ingenuity was infinite. By the end of the cycle, Alex had achieved more than survival. He had taught others, tested systems, discovered weaknesses, and proven that even under extreme conditions, humans could act decisively, think strategically, and endure without surrender. Pain refused to sleep, but so did their determination. Every wave of suffering became a lesson, a guide, and a source of power. And as the laboratory dimmed for the night, Alex sat quietly, eyes open, body calm, mind racing. The potion had worked chemically, but the human spirit remained untouchable. Every small disruption, every careful observation, every silent gesture had strengthened their position. Humans had endured, adapted, and begun to act. The next stage, the true test of strategy and courage, was only just beginning. Pain refused to sleep. But neither would human ingenuity, determination, or courage. The laboratory was unusually still. The hum of the machines continued, but a tension hung in the air that Kalen could not ignore. Alex sat in his restraints calm, his mind racing with a plan that had been forming for days. The potion had dulled the sharpest edges of the pain, but it could not dull his determination. He had studied every machine, memorized every schedule, and guided the other humans in subtle, invisible ways. Today, they would act. Alex began the operation quietly, small movements at first. A slight twist of a lever, a minimal shift in posture. Adjustments that were imperceptible to the aliens but crucial for the plan. Every action was deliberate. Every micro-movement had a purpose. To the aliens, it seemed like minor anomalies, but Alex had orchestrated them carefully, testing the limits of the systems. Observing how small disruptions could create a chain reaction, the other humans followed his example, responding to subtle gestures and signals. No words were spoken. No alarms were triggered. They moved with precision, mirroring Alex's calm determination. Every restraint, every device, every machine became a part of their strategy. Pain remained a dull and persistent presence, but it no longer controlled them. It guided them, sharpened their focus, and reminded them of what they could endure. Kalen watched confusion and awe battling in his mind. The potion should have suppressed the humans entirely. The pain should have broken them. Yet Alex and his group were working as one, coordinating movements, anticipating machine cycles, and subtly manipulating systems without detection. Even the assistants were noticing anomalies but could not trace them. Back to the humans. Alex's first target was the containment system. He had memorized the timing of the sensors and the pressure pads. A slight adjustment to the restraints combined with coordinated movements from the other humans created a small gap. It was just enough to allow minimal freedom of motion. The others followed suit, each human leveraging the small opportunity to stretch, adjust, and prepare for the next step. Pain flared briefly, but Alex and the others endured, drawing strength from the rhythm of suffering that had become part of their strategy. The next stage involved the observation cameras. Alex had noticed subtle blind spots during the previous days. Using small movements, he triggered temporary malfunctions in the feeds. The aliens noticed delays, glitches, and interruptions, but they could not determine the cause. To Alex, it was a window of opportunity, a way to act without being observed. He signaled to the other humans, who moved in perfect synchronization. Guided by their shared understanding and quiet coordination, Kellen's frustration grew. He had designed every system to be flawless, to anticipate human weakness, to suppress resistance completely. Yet here they were, humans acting with precision, intelligence, and courage under conditions that should have destroyed them. He scribbled notes frantically, realizing that what he was witnessing could not be explained fully by science. Humans were more resilient, more creative, more determined than any formula could predict. Alex moved to the portal control station. He had studied its mechanisms for days, noting the timing, the energy cycles, and the activation sequences. A precise sequence of movements, combined with careful manipulation of the laboratory systems, allowed him to access the control panel. The other humans provided silent support, monitoring for disturbances and adjusting their actions in real time. Every action was a test, and every test had been rehearsed mentally countless times. Kalen approached, golden eyes narrowing. "Stop this," he commanded, his voice sharp and tense. Alex did not respond verbally, but a small nod, a subtle shift in posture, communicated readiness to the others. The aliens tried to intervene, but Alex anticipated their movements. He had mapped their reactions and prepared counters for every possible interference. Humans, Kalen realized with growing respect, were not only enduring, they were strategizing, improvising, and leading in ways he could not predict. The portal began to hum as Alex activated the sequence. Energy pulsed along the conduits, vibrating through the floor and walls. The other humans adjusted their positions, coordinating with Alex's precise movements. Small sparks of machinery flared, and the laboratory lights flickered. Pain surged through Alex's body, intense and unrelenting, but he used it as fuel, focusing his mind entirely on the task. Every moment counted. Every second was an opportunity. Kalen shouted commands, trying to regain control, but it was too late. The humans had disrupted the system at critical points, creating a chain reaction that the aliens could not fully contain. Doors unlocked, restraints loosened, and the observation feeds flickered wildly. Alex signaled to the others. It was time to move. With careful precision, the humans advanced toward the portal. Each step was calculated. Each movement accounted for potential traps, sensors, and interventions. Pain surged through their bodies, but they endured, guided by Alex's leadership and their shared determination. They moved as one, coordinated and deliberate, turning what should have been suffering into strength. Kalen tried to intervene physically, stepping in front of the group. This cannot succeed. he shouted. Alex stopped briefly, assessing the situation. The alien was faster and stronger than any human. But the humans had learned more than survival. They had learned strategy, timing, and coordination. Alex used the potion's calm influence to steady his mind, calculate the next move, and act decisively. A subtle shift of the portal's control. Mechanism triggered a temporary feedback surge in the alien systems. Kalen was caught off guard, pushed back slightly, and the humans moved past him. The other assistants hesitated, unsure how to respond to the chaos unfolding. Alex led the humans steadily, guiding them through the labyrinth of machinery toward freedom. The portal chamber loomed ahead. Energy crackled along its surface, and the interface glowed with bright, pulsating light. Alex approached carefully, signaling to the others. They positioned themselves, synchronized, ready for the jump. Every detail had been planned, every reaction anticipated, and every step rehearsed mentally. Pain surged again, intense and relentless. But Alex had trained himself to endure and focus simultaneously. With a final, coordinated movement, a surge of energy engulfed the chamber, machines sparking, lights flickering. The humans felt a moment of intense pressure, a sensation that could have broken lesser beings, but they remained focused. Alex's mind guided them, using rhythm, coordination, and endurance to lead each human safely into the portal's energy field. Kalen and his assistants shouted, trying to stop them, but the humans moved with unstoppable precision. The portal energy enveloped them, light and warmth mingling with the sharp ache of exertion. Alex's body screamed with pain, but he harnessed it, converting it into focus. Each human stepped forward, guided by trust in him, and disappeared into the portal one by one. Finally, Alex himself entered. The energy surged through him, pain flaring to its peak, but he endured, steadying his mind against the overwhelming sensations. In a moment that stretched like eternity, he felt the portal's pull, the transition from captivity to freedom. And then, with a sudden rush, he emerged on the other side. The air unfamiliar but clean, the world vast and open. The humans gathered, breathing heavily, bodies aching, but spirits soaring. They had survived the impossible, endured pain beyond imagination, and executed a coordinated escape that no alien had anticipated. Alex looked at them, pride and relief filling his mind. Pain had been relentless, persistent, and unyielding, but it had not broken them. It had refined them, sharpened them, strengthened their resolve. Kalen arrived moments later, observing from the portal chamber. He had followed their progress, but it was too late. The humans were gone, free from the laboratory and from his control. He stepped back, golden eyes wide, a mixture of awe and disbelief on his face. He had learned something he could never have calculated. Humans could endure, adapt, and triumph, even under conditions designed to destroy them. Alex, standing with the other humans on unfamiliar ground, felt the ache of their ordeal in every muscle, every nerve. Pain refused to sleep, but it was no longer a cage. It was a reminder of what they had endured and overcome. Together, they had transformed suffering into strategy, endurance into leadership, and captivity into freedom. The humans looked to Alex for guidance. He had led them through pain, through uncertainty, and through danger. Now, they were stronger, wiser, and united. Even though the world outside the laboratory was unknown and potentially hostile, they faced it together. Pain had been a constant companion, but it had not defeated them. It had shown them what they could endure, what they could achieve, and what they could become. Kalen finally spoke, his voice soft and almost reverent. Even under every test, every pain we could inflict, humans endure. They learn, they lead, and they survive. Alex did not respond aloud. He did not need to. The truth of their journey was written in every scar, every careful movement, in every shared glance of determination among the humans. As night fell over the distant landscape, the humans gathered together, exhausted but resolute. They had faced the worst the aliens could impose, endured chemical control, amplified pain, impossible experiments, and yet they remained whole. Their spirit, ingenuity, and courage had triumphed. Pain refused to sleep.